Hey everyone, welcome back. What is up? Today I got another shitpost video for you. There aren't too many applications for this, but it is amusing and, well, at least it's useful for disruption, I guess. We're gonna take Soul Gate and increase its damage by 10 times higher than normal. That's right, 10 times. We turn this crap ability from this into this. This uses a method that some of you probably already use now, and if you've been keeping an eye on Dystopia and Mine's channels, I think you already know what we're going to be doing today. We are using Heat Inherit, put simply. Now, today's showcase uses a Riven, but don't fret, even a Rivenless setup will still make Soul Gate hit 5 times harder than normal. So how does this work? Well, let's go over the mechanics of Heat Inherit first. Heat dots are different than other status dots in that all procs are refreshed for their full duration whenever you get another heat dot. This means you have linearly scaling damage that never falls off, so long as you keep shooting. Also, the size of the heat dot is very dependent on the first heat proc present. All heat procs use the heat mod percentage of the first proc as well as its Bane, so your first proc better have good heat percent and Bane percent modded on it. But for base damage, heat procs will use the weapon that procced it. So this means heat DPS weapons want to use a big PP weapon with good stats to build up more procs, but you want a separate special kind of primer to give the very first proc build around max Bane and heat mod percentage. Your actual DPS weapon isn't really built any different than a standard heat DPS build, but abilities are different. Stuff like Soul Gate, which does heat damage and can proc heat status, are treated as unmodded weapons for Heat Inherit. This means it has the equivalent of 0% Bane and 0% heat. Treat Soul Gate like Tenet Cycron or Ignis Wraith. It has pure innate heat damage, but no actual heat mod percent. So using 100% heat on your primer will mean now that Soul Gate has 100% heat mod on it. Using a Bane will mean Soul Gate also picks up that Bane on the first heat proc and double dips because, well, it's a DOT. Therefore, the most important part of Heat Inherit strats is finding a high dispo weapon that can actually proc status and rolling Riven with a Bane to the desired faction and heat. This way you maximize the 2 stats that Soul Gate or any main heat DPS weapon you're trying to use will inherit, hence Heat Inherit. Today, I haven't been able to find a perfect weapon for this because it's quite difficult to find good status applicators with heat and Bane with a neg and also high disposition that's actually online and isn't listed from, say, 1 year ago. But I did manage to snag this particular Axomati Riven. The weapon stats itself doesn't really matter besides status application capability because we're only using it to proc heat and act as a stat stick. Something like Spectra Vandal would be better, but quite frankly, my Riven only has a Bane on it and no heat, and Soul Gate probably I've already noticed isn't the best usage of Heat Inherit, so I didn't take Spectra. But Spectra is a beam weapon and would proc heat and viral instantly, so if I did have the right Riven, this would probably be the best option for any Heat Inherit setup in general. Oh yes, and viral, because we do need to shoot our primer for heat anyways, so I might as well mod viral on it to boost our actual damage from Soul Gate. Axomati has kinda crap status, so I had to use a 90% toxin mod to increase viral weight instead of running Perpetual Agony to double up on status duration with the Augur variant because I was unable to reliably proc 10 viral status otherwise in one magazine. My Riven has Corpus Bane, so I'm going to be showcasing this on Apollo today, but I could also use this against Grineer and swap the Bane mod, but then half my Riven would be doing nothing. Also, hit scan weapons of Grineer are more annoying to be honest. Soul Gate only procs a new heat status about once or twice a second, so it is somewhat limited in application. It does have very high damage though when scaling for DOTs, but the slow DOT procs hampers this significantly. If you don't have a Riven, I would strongly recommend running Barrel Diffusion over this slot. Because this is intended for disruption memes, I'm going to want to armor strip. I'm bringing this particular Vassalok build for that again, currently the fastest armor stripper in the game. Shattering impact to strip base damage and various amounts of attack speed to make it set up faster. Amalgam Organ Shatter lets me recover from heavy sooner, but these are actually useful because I've even slotted Dispatch Overdrive for movement quality of life. Sacrificial Steel is present to significantly buff the crit chance of this pellet-based shotgun gunblade, which means it can proc arcanes for me, such as Arcane Velocity to dump Axomati's Meg even faster. Volcanic Edge will refresh heat proc so we don't lose the first heat proc from Axomati while we're armor stripping. We basically find a Demolysts, lock it down, tag it with Axomati to proc one heat stack, armor strip it, and dump the rest of Axomati. And then lock it down again and cast Soul Gate until it's dead. Our pet is mostly irrelevant, but I'm going to be bringing this generic Panzer build for support. The most important part, our Wisp build. First thing you'll probably notice is that I don't have Brief Respite or Rolling Guard on. Simply put, if your shield breaks, just jump. Or bullet jump and aim glide. Nothing can see you while you're in the air because that is Wisp's passive. You are now free to regenerate shields and then land. So this is a damage boosting Wisp setup specifically for Soul Gate and, well, if you want, any weapons you bring, but the main purpose is for Soul Gate. I've Helmet Roar over her 2, but you could also Helmet over her 3 instead on this build if you want, as the range is tiny so we won't really be getting an effective CC. The only thing you'll really cast your 3 on is the Demolysst itself, but it does nullify that once every 6 seconds, so your window for damage boosting isn't that large from Breach Surge. The most important parts of the build are her 1, 4, and Roar, so not only do we have super high strength but also decent duration and some efficiency so we don't lose all of our energy instantly, as once we start focusing Soul Gate, it will double the drain on this build to 9.36 energy per second. Prime Sure-Footed makes sure we don't get flung all over the place or die and is what allows us to become instantly invisible by jumping once our shield breaks. Growing Power gives us that tiny bit of extra oomph to push both Double Dipping Roar and Soul Gate further. Arcane Energize will help a bit with the drain, and Arcane Velocity, which we will proc with Vastlock Sacrificial Steel while armor stripping, to set up Axomani for a much faster Meg Dump and set up both our Heat and Valor procs before casting Soul Gate. Together, this is what makes the meme possible. Damage test time? Let's, spawn an Ambulus? It's the tankiest thing I have that has armor and is Corpus, so first we'll do it without armor strip, then we'll do it with. Now there's 2. I'm going to take one of the Ambuluses to proc Growing Power. First, I'm going to place my motes. This is important for survivability, boosting my movement speed and some shocks, but actually they also buff Soul Gate, so the Vitality and Shock motes each give 25% multiplicative more damage to Soul Gate. Now my final damage is 1.5 times higher. Haste motes will also give it the capability to force corrosive procs, letting it do a tiny bit more damage against armored enemies. Keep in mind it only procs, it doesn't add corrosive damage. These are minor buffs, but no harm in using them. They're just bonuses on top of the normal buffs you'd use motes for anyways. So this first Ambulus, I'm gonna tag the other one again for Growing Power for Roar. Now the rotation. You see this thing? Pretend it's a Demolysst. You dump your entire Axomani Meg into it and Magus Lockdown. Then cast Soul Gate. You hold Soul Gate and focus with mouse button 1 until it dies. That's about it. Also make sure you're further than 6.5 meters away from it. Getting nullified by the pulse sucks. Also make sure you lock it down before you cast Soul Gate. You don't want to be chasing after Demolysst while you're casting, do you? So that took a little bit for it to die. This is why Armor Strip is so important. Let's try that again on the second one, shall we? This time, we will shoot only a few Axomani shots at it until we get our Heat proc. Then you will armor strip it with Vastlock until the bar is red. Now, you dump the rest of Axomani in, then lock down as fast as you can and cast Soul Gate. Hold Soul Gate and focus with mouse button 1 until it dies, just like before. It's a tiny bit more complicated, but a ton more damage since we stripped all the armor off. You can see even though the ticks are pretty big, the actual tick procs are slow. If only Soul Gate ticked more times per second for procs, but this is probably the best we'll get. I will leave the rest of the video showcasing Soul Gate on Steel Path Disruption. This is just a shitpost after all. I highly doubt this can do level cap at all, but hey, it does work for this and we did manage to make Wisps arguably, unanimously, were stability actually functional for once. Enjoy. Did you ever think Wisp Soulgate could ever be useful? Well, does this actually count as useful? Memes aside, I'm actually surprised it worked out this well, but it's also somewhat clunky. It was fun though, and I'm glad the ability at least has one use now. If this is your first time watching, feel free to leave a like or better yet subscribe. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. 79.5% of you are not subscribed. I'm trying my best to get you new information out always as soon as possible. Like I've done with covering the Tempest story and the Sisters of Parvos updates. Stick around if you want to see interesting memes and builds on a nearly daily basis. I'm also preparing to get you the info first once more new war info drops. You don't want to miss out on any of that, do you? That'll be it for this video. Thank you all for watching, and see you all next time.